The Tom and Serge Cafe in Al Quoz has become synonymous with the culinary wave that swept through Dubai in the past 5 years. It's now the go-to place for lunch and breakfast in Dubai. Its sister brands will be known to you too, Common Grounds and The Sum of Us, to name a few. Tom Arnel from parent company Bull & Roo tells us what it's like to run a growing food and beverage business in Dubai, where his food inspiration comes from and what's coming down the line. Dubai has a vibrant and ever-changing food and beverage industry. There's estimated 8,000 or 9,000 F&B outlets in Dubai. Sometimes it's hard to stay on top of what's opening and what's closing. We're spoiled for choice here with almost every cuisine in the world represented and plenty of cool new places to try out all the time. It's no doubt a difficult business to start off in. Welcome to Dubai Works, a business podcast about the innovators, the products, the services, and trending topics. Loving Dubai's take on the business stories that matter. My name is Richard Fitzgerald. I'm the founder of Augustus Media, publishers of Lovin Dubai, Lovin Saudi, and Smashy TV. Each week, we'll be interviewing the dynamic business leaders of Dubai. Welcome, Tom. Good to have you here in the Dubai Works Business Podcast.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great. It's good to kind of chat. So you're Tom of Tom and Serge fame.
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
And what is that? What you're known as? What's Tom and Serge mean to you?
I think it's the running name at the moment. People go, I'm Tom. Yeah. Oh, of Tom and Serge. Yes, I suppose. So I do get that a bit, but yeah, it's good. We've had some good success over the last 5 years since we opened, which has been awesome.
Yeah. So Tom and Serge is a cafe in Al Quoz that opened exactly 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was November the 18th in 2013, and we opened with a bit of a bang. I suppose we're the first place to open a sort of warehouse style cafe in Dubai. We closed at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
We did a lot of things quite differently. We focused on breakfast and lunch and specialty coffee.
Yeah.
And wanted to have a little bit of a destinational type feel where we did things our way. And Dubai's definitely really taken it on and loved it for the last couple of years. So it's been great.
How did that come about? Were you working in that space already here, and where's the influences come from? And did you see the success that it would be? Did you know that demand for something like that was there?
I suppose I'm a chef by trade, so
yeah.
that's a starter thing to know. But that's sort of what got me into the whole idea about opening my own place and that type of thing. But I was working for a company in Dubai that was doing really, really well at the time.
Yeah.
And we were serving a similar type of product. It was very sort of casual dining, mid-market but high quality, daily routine type place.
Yeah. Jones the Grocers.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah, it was Jones the Grocer. Yeah. So I worked for them for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then saw how that it was doing well, but I was restricted by the brand obviously, and it being a chain or a franchise, and I wanted to do things my own way, cook my own food, and from what I had learned over the years, and what I saw Dubai was missing, and I think at the time, and still to this day, I'm so amazed at how multicultural Dubai is, and how well traveled its residents are.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that the locals are well traveled, the expats are well traveled, the standards are pretty high that they expect.
Yeah.
So you've just got to keep pushing boundaries, and I wanted to do something a bit different, and I started cooking there with no rules, I guess, which was good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess there's a bit of a fusion of things. The area that you choose, Al Quoz, the kind of industrial feel that it has to it, the type of food that you serve. Obviously, and you're Australian, has a kind of an Australian influence in terms of the cafe scene, and then there's also the no rules part, which is very Dubai in a way in terms of feeling. Is that one? Are those kind of combination of things that have made it a success?
I definitely. I think in Dubai we often think that because of the hype that is around us and the mentality of build it and they will come. Let's go and get this done and go hard. We definitely felt that, and still to this day, I still feel that. And I think that as long as you sort of, listening to the Dubai residents and understanding what they really want, there's opportunity everywhere in the city.
Yeah, and it's almost hard to get a seat at Tom and Serge at a weekend in particular. Like, how's that kept going? And one of the things that I noticed originally that was different, it felt like the service was different. The food was definitely of a different style, but the service and the people and the atmosphere you know, how kind of was that created? And what's important?
Yeah, the service, it was about, you know, nurturing our staff, making sure they felt like they had a life, which is one of the reasons why we closed at 4:00, so they could go home, they could get a rest, you know, they could go to see their friends or go to the cinema or go to a party, whatever they wanted to do, but at least they had a life after work. Usually hospitality work is, you know, you work long shifts, you work through the evening, you don't get to bed till late, you wake up late, all that sort of thing. So your body clock's a bit off. So we made the decision to close early, partly because of that reason as well.
Yeah.
You know, we look after our staff. We give them a couple of days off a week, which is, you know, a great thing. A lot of companies normally give only 1 day off.
Yeah.
There's a few things that, you know, we also, one of the biggest things that I thought actually helped bring their personalities out was we didn't have a uniform.
Yeah.
We just let them, you know, wear whatever they wanted to wear, and that that really sort of let each person sort of shine a little bit, show off who they are, which was really cool.
Amazing. So, kind of, what happened next for many who don't know? Like, what happened next? Like, with Tom and Serge, with the other brands, how did it happen? And were you still cooking, or did you have to suddenly become a businessman? And kind of, what was the transition?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of learning curves there, but you know, to navigate through a successful business and figure out how to scale it. As a chef, you know, that's my natural habitat to go back to and go to the kitchen and cook and all that sort of stuff. And I still do write all the menus and cook with my guys. The time is limited that I spend in the kitchen now, just because I'm running the entire business as well.
Yeah. What is the entire business in terms of names and size at the moment?
So we have about 250 employees. It's comprised of Tom and Serge Cafe, Common Grounds, which is in Mall of the Emirates.
Okay.
Brunswick, which is in behind Common Grounds in the Sheraton Hotel, behind Mall of the Emirates. We have the Some of Us. We have a bakery called Rise and Dawn Bakery. We have a coffee roastery called Encounter Coffee.
Okay.
You know, we're partners in a barber shop as well, which is amazing. It has 2 locations now, called Akin Barber. We've grown fairly, you know, decently over the last couple of years, and it's been a pretty wild ride. I can't even believe it, you know, sometimes when I say that, you know, but we do have, you know, some more plans for the future to grow. We see, as I said before, we see a lot of opportunity in the city, and it really is obvious where we think our product works well. Specifically, we target people that we know are going to use us because they trust our product. We try and, you know, encourage them to come back loyally and come back, you know, as part of their daily routine 3 to 4 times a week, because we are that mid-price point. You know, where we try to be in really convenient locations where we have a good mix of business and residential crowds as well. So, you know, happy to say that we've got 2 new locations under construction at the moment, which probably about 50% of the way through. So they'll be opening in the next probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Nice.
And one of those is in JLT. In Almas Tower. And the other one is in DIFC, which is a great location there. So they're both Common Grounds. And we're going to be really targeting, you know, the people, the residents and the workers in those areas, and trying to get them coming back as much as possible. So
amazing. So what percentage of your time is in the kitchen and outside of the kitchen now? Or is it the same thing?
It's let's see, if you count at home as well. I have 3 kids, so I got to cook for them as well. You know, I try to cook healthy and you know, get their taste buds going at an early age as well. So I don't know, probably, you know, maybe say 75, 25 in the kitchen at the moment, sort of 75 working on the expansion. But that usually means that I'm in there most days, just for a couple of hours on end, whether, you know, because I work, you know.
But the passion is still there in food, so that's kind of part of the drive. The kind of, you know, you're still cooking at home, you still love food, and you're looking at that. Kind of helps you kind of keep growing this. It
drives the business. Like if I often think back, but I just don't think that I could do what I do today without having that food knowledge. I just think it's so important in the F&B industry to really have a good understanding of what high quality food is, and how to satisfy customers, and especially like when they're paying, you know, fairly good money for, you know, for one of your dishes. You've got to make sure that it's, you know, it's got thought behind it, it's considerate of diets and health and all, and flavor combinations, got to be balanced, you know, all these types of things. So
What do you think of what you've set as a precedent and kind of influence? You know, I was recently in Australia and I spent some time in cafes in Sydney, and you can just see that it's part of the culture and there's lots of innovation and entrepreneurship in that space. In Dubai, you almost kind of were led that charge kind of 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
Are you happy that the audience and the consumers have come along? Or are you a bit kind of protective that you see many other kind of similar style restaurants and cafes open up, or is that just natural business?
No, I think that's natural business for sure.
Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely very pleased with the way Dubai has sort of taken to our product. But it doesn't surprise me either, because you know, you mentioned Australia, and Australia is an extremely multicultural place. We don't have a cuisine there, so I suppose you could call our food.
Wow, yeah.
You know, it's Australian cuisine because I'm from Australia. It's the idea of Australian cafe culture is sort of our bread and butter for most of our businesses. But you know, it means that we can cook with loads of different inspiration from all over the world, and not really have to follow anything certain. So although there are, you know, I'd say the majority of our inspiration is, okay, this is complicated, but I'll try and explain as well. We use a lot of old school French techniques. You know, whether it's cutting or braising or steaming or frying or whatever, or stewing or, you know, whatever.
Is that where your training was?
Yeah, that was my base
French
training.
Style,
yeah,
cordon
definitely.
bleu style or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I worked in some a very famous French fine dining restaurant in Australia called Vue de Monde. I worked there for 5 years, actually. So that most of my training was from fine dining. I've worked in some of the world's best restaurants as well, including Artzac in Spain, which was number 7 in the world at the time when I was there.
Wow.
But yeah, it's most of it is it's French techniques at the very base. But when we then go and reinterpret that, it's Southeast Asian flavors, whether it's Vietnam, Thailand, and when I say that, I'm not saying we're doing those dishes. I'm saying that we use a lot of kaffir lime, we use a lot of lemongrass, we use a lot of ginger. You know, we use a lot of those types of flavors. And then, you know, it can even be like African, where we use a lot of dukkha, or, you know, and then we can be you know, I don't know, Iranian, where we use a lot of, you know, saffron and pistachios, or you know, Middle Eastern, where we're using, you know, lemons and, you know, different all these different sort of even Mediterranean flavors. We're just sort of trying to find the right ways to bring them together. Without being fusion. So I hope I'm not confusing you here. Without being fusion ever. So we don't like have one dish where we've got a flavor from Middle East or a flavor from Thailand or whatever. So it's fusing those dishes together, or those ingredients together, into one dish, but reinterpreting into this modern Australian style of contemporary cafe cuisine.
I'm beginning to see why it might appeal to the kind of over 200 nationalities that are here. That there's kind of a little bit of it's your target audience isn't just one perceived demographic. It's basically Dubai residents. Yeah,
it's very true. I think for me, whenever I taste a dish, or whenever I'm trying to come up with a new dish, it's I usually try and think of, and I'm going to confuse you again, but I have this thing about when I was a kid. I used to love salt and vinegar chips. And I loved them because they were so salty and they were so acidic. And those are two of the flavors that the tongue absolutely just loves. Like when you have a piece of fish, you put a big bit of lemon on it, and it's like, oh, it makes it so good. You know, bit of sea salt, bit of lemon. It's like, it's amazing.
You need good potatoes.
It's the same. It's the same sort of. It's the same philosophy. So, but with our cooking, it's like everything that we do, I want to look for sweet, sour, salty, balanced flavors in each dish. So when you go to one of my places next time, just like think about that when you have a dish, and you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. And then you like sort of, you know, you add texture and you add, you know, spice and all these other things to it as well to give it a bit of a rev up. I
want to touch on, before we touch on trends in the food industry, I just want to talk about the kind of F&B industry in Dubai, because, you know, we're spoiled for choice. It's wonderful. We've so many places, so many things, and it's changing all the time. But from a business side point, it's a bit daunting. The per capita ratio of restaurants is higher than I think anywhere that I've seen. I think it's 8,000 or 9,000 F&B outlets in Dubai. You know, like is there an overload? And you know, what advice would you have from a business point of view for people? I know there could be plenty, but like, what sort of heads or mentality do you need to be entering into this space?
Yeah, definitely the supply of restaurants has definitely increased. Spending, I suppose, is sort of flat at best. Still positive, but it's flat. It's got to be. We've had a massive few years of growth.
Yeah.
So that's normal. But I suppose it's about sort of like really sort of picking your niche, understanding your business model, making sure that before you go into it, have the experience. Don't go blind. I know. I think a lot of it has come through, just investments and people just investing, having the idea of, okay, let's just hire a chef and just put him in there, give him a salary, and then hope for the best sort of thing. Get a great location, pay too high a rent probably, thinking that footfall will just come.
Yeah.
But it's about the people. You got to invest in the people.
Yeah.
And what I would love to see more in the city over the next couple of years is way more young entrepreneurs, chef-driven people, or guys or girls who have sort of had experience in Dubai, who have worked for some of the hotels, worked for me, worked for all the other restaurants around town.
Yeah.
Then take the step and go, right, let's go out there and I'm going to take a punt. I'm going to try and find a way to get my own restaurant open.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case,
yeah,
and that person finds an investor, but they've led it,
yeah,
then they've got the responsibility to deliver the success, not the investor.
And it's interesting. It's almost like the externalities, so the ups and downs, the economy and things like that, will be there regardless. But the things that you can control, which is experience, knowledge, passion, energy, and food, if you do that right, you have every chance of success.
100%. This is one of the things that you see a lot around now, is that because of the fact that a lot of those 9,000 restaurants are probably investment driven rather than chef driven, by passion.
Yeah.
You see changes happen all the time. So as soon as numbers aren't what was expected, they just fire the chef and get someone new in.
Yeah.
But and there's also a couple of issues where it's we've seen that even my staff, we have people come and try and poach our staff away for massive salaries, and they're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So I might have a mid-level chef or junior chef in one of my restaurants.
Yeah.
And then someone will come and approach that person.
Yeah.
Offer them double salary.
Yeah.
Put them in as a senior chef in their restaurant that's an investment.
Yeah.
Then they underperform. They can't figure out why.
Too much
they
pressure,
get sacked,
etc.
and then they hire someone else, and then all of a sudden 6 months later the restaurant closes.
It's amazing.
So it's just this cycle that's happening, and we're seeing it all the time.
Yeah. Wow.
So.
But we also I think that's a really good point about people who learn from experiences here and launching businesses. There's this Proudly Dubai initiative with a lot of kind of F&B outlets, brand outlets, homegrown brands from Dubai as well. That seem that are kind of creating success stories. So it's good to see.
I think it's amazing. Like I've set up my life here. I got my I got married here. My kids are here. Like we all go to school. They all go to school here. Like we're living here like we would anywhere else. And the city is really ready for a big wave of young entrepreneurs that are willing to set up life here.
Wow. Yeah. And from a trend point of view, I think we chatted recently, a couple of years ago, when the kind of food truck scene was happening, and there's all the delivery apps and things like that. How do you navigate sort of innovation and trends from a consumer point of view, from an industry point of view? Do you have a set vision on where you want to take the kind of the Bull and Roo, the Tom and Serge kind of brands, and how do you kind of navigate all that? How do you make choices?
Yeah, it's tough. you gotta listen to so many different factors. There's so many different things that you could do in as a business as you navigate through, whether you focus on delivery, whether you focus on do you cloud kitchens and all these types of things that are coming up at the moment.
Do you have that?
No.
So cloud kitchens are kind of dark kitchens where people can see your brand on an app, order, but it's actually they can't even walk into that place. Yeah. So that's a kind of big trend in other markets, and there are some places like that here. Is it something that you think it works, and is it possible to do that? Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely space for it. Like it is the future. There's no denying that. As people get less patient and so needy for instantaneous food, like that is, and they're lazy enough to not go out of their office or go for a 10-minute walk, or not even lazy. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they've got their next meeting, and it makes total sense to, just order it in rather than go and spend half an hour, having a chat with someone, having over a coffee and a salad in a cafe.
Yeah.
So I get why it is, and I, we are looking at different ways of getting into that side of the business, but at the moment we're really just focusing on our four walls and just trying to figure out how to, make sure that we continue to give really high customer service and, make sure that our staff are really engaged and make sure, that we're just delivering the product that we've always promised to deliver.
How do you see innovations do you see digital as a separate element, or do you see it as part of the kind of consumer journey, whether it's ordering, whether it's marketing, whether it's influencers and customer loyalty? Is that all part of your proposition? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, there's so many different factors to it, as I said, like whether it's considering how you advertise on one of these apps or, the delivery apps or whether you, spend a lot of time focusing on advertising through social media. Because essentially I'm not expecting to do hundreds of orders a day if we went through one of those delivery apps.
Yeah.
So essentially it is sort of, if we were to do it, it is, more of a marketing type activation to get your brand name out there and whatever. But
so at the moment you're not available on those delivery apps?
Yeah, we are. We are, but and I'm going to say a few things that there are issues with them.
Okay.
Is that because there's no real controls over on a lot of these apps about who goes on there and what restaurants go on there. It's very difficult to get noticed on them.
Yeah.
So if
it's interesting,
because if you go onto one of them right now, in this radius where we are, you might see 100 different restaurants. By the time you get to 20, people are sick of scrolling. They go, I just have the one at the top. So, plus the commission's usually quite high. And also there's another thing and this is another thing that I have sort of with it, is that a lot of the times the food that is placed onto delivery, like a lot of my dishes aren't designed for delivery.
Yeah.
So we've done a small menu that's based around food that I know travels well.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, when the customer gets it, they're going to be satisfied with it.
Yeah.
So because they're getting something of quality.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of the restaurants will do, they'll put their whole menu on there.
Yeah.
So you should never put a risotto on a bike.
Yeah.
And have it send around for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's gonna it'll literally, you'll be able to bang it onto a table as soon as you get it out. So it's about trying to find the right ways to, and I hope what they do is to start to vet certain restaurants.
Yeah.
So that they know that what they're putting on there is of quality.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's not.
It's hard for you to kind of, what you stand for is that sort of high quality product, and it's hard for that to be delivered that way. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like we are on them, and we have some loyal customers that really enjoy our products from there, and we try hard to make sure that we're serving the best products through there. Yeah.
But obviously there are some kinks. It's still very new as well. You got to remember that these delivery apps have only been around for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like mainstream, maybe 2 years. I didn't even have Deliveroo on my phone last year.
Yeah.
And now I do, and I use it regularly because I get home late sometimes. If I've cooked for the kids, but I haven't cooked for myself yet, it's like, okay, I'll order something that I know is of quality.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. But generally I think they've got a long way to go and a lot of learning to do. So.
And would you do your own delivery, your own apps and things like that? Is that something?
Love to at some point. Yeah, I really do have some ideas for that in the future.
Okay.
Because I think that, as I said, there's ways of getting the quality right up there, but I suppose I'll let you know in the next couple of months about that one. Maybe there's something come up.
Perfect. And what sort of approach do you take to, like, how do you tell the story and the journey of Tom and Serge, Some of Us, and Common Grounds, and what do you think from a marketing point of view? How do you create these concepts and these brands, and what's important to them?
So the brand creation is led by myself, as well as being a chef. I sort of am, I suppose, quite creative in that sense.
Yeah.
I really know what I feel like I want for my brands when we go into like the conceptual phase anyway, or the initial phases. But that's purely through trying to understand the market and the population as well as possible to sort of figure out what the niche is and where I think the brands can work well. But
Is Common Grounds, because of the name, is it more associated with coffee, or is are there any kind of connotations that there's food focus on some aspects and coffee and others, or?
Yeah, definitely. Common Grounds is it's the name is Common Grounds after coffee, yes. So it serves very high quality specialty coffee from Encounter Coffee, our coffee roaster.
Yeah.
And yeah, we really focus on the specialty side of things in terms of making sure we have really high grade coffees from all over the world. I think we've got 7 or 8 different origins at the moment, which is interesting. You can ask about when you go into the restaurant. Cool. Common Grounds we focus on more healthy, everyday meals that people can rely on on a daily basis. So it's probably, how could I class it? I suppose Tom and Serge is the more adventurous one in terms of flavor combinations and that type of thing. The Some of Us is a little bit more. It's in a more corporate area. But it's also very relaxed at the same time. The food is, I suppose you'd say, a little bit more sensible, more familiar for people, and I would say Common Grounds is definitely focused on. We're getting to a point now where we're focused on a lot of vegetarian, a lot of vegan stuff, a lot of health-driven dishes, all that sort of thing. So, which is why we've sort of chosen the locations that we have for the new ones, because we think that's what people want at the moment regularly. During the week, so
which are vegan options on the menus, or would you look at a standalone vegan offering? How do you approach that?
They're embedded in the menus. Okay. Yeah, actually, all my places have vegan. Quite a lot of vegan options, to be honest with you. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah. Are you ever approached for franchises and people looking to kind of replicate what you've done under the same brand name?
Yeah, we multiple times over the last few years for sure. We've held back a little bit just because we want to mature the brands a little bit. We want to make sure that we really continue to get their names out there as that one destination. As soon as you grow into too many different locations of one brand, it can sort of. Sometimes they can start to compete against each other, and sometimes customers, if locations are not chosen right, they can definitely cannibalize each other as well. So we're being really careful with that.
Yeah.
But we'd love to look at expansion into other areas of the GCC internationally at some point, which is what we're sort of considering now as well.
Okay.
Sort of into the future, how we navigate that, how we do that.
Okay.
Which is really exciting actually to think about. So
yeah. Okay, amazing, brilliant. And kind of like in the future, you mentioned the new openings at DIFC and Alma's Towers. How is the brand? If we sat down in 5 years' time, exactly 5 years since you launched, where does the Bull and Roo is the holding company?
Yeah.
So where does that sort of sit? What does the future look like?
Ooh, I'm so pumped about it. Actually, I really, really feel like our product's still got a lot of legs. In this market. We've got some big things on the cards going into the end of 2019 and 2020, which I can't mention at the moment. But there are some really, really amazing projects coming up.
Different than you've done before.
Yes. I suppose one of them will be slightly different than what we've done before. Another one is sort of just taking what we currently do, but just to a whole nother level. In a really, really amazing location, which I'm really, really pumped about. So
amazing. Where is it?
I can't tell you yet, Richard. Yeah, you've got me on that one before.
I have to ask.
I would hope in maybe the next 2 months, I reckon I can start, talking about those. So,
okay, amazing. Yeah. And how do you see Dubai developing? Like, what are you excited about living here, and what do you think this city is going to be like in 5 years' time?
I think it's just continuing to become a real cosmopolitan city where people just want to live. We've got everything here. We're in the middle of the world. We're so close. I always measure it by how often do I get guests visiting me from Australia. Last year, I had like 10 or 12 different groups of friends visit me on their way to Europe.
Yeah.
And they all used to fly straight through. Every single one of them stopped in Dubai for like 5-6 days and spent time here.
Yeah.
Whereas the years before it was, you could barely had one or two,
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And they also, I get the same from Ireland, and they also know about things here, whether it's like, have you eaten in Salt Bay restaurant yet?
Yeah.
They kind of ask you, this concert is happening. Like, they're kind of more on top of things than we are. They kind of, it's not it's not what should we do. It's like, this time I want to do that sort of thing.
I definitely think, Dubai is definitely there now with like New York, London, Sydney, all these other great cities around the world. I really think that we're right there with them now.
Wow.
Which is awesome to think, because, I've been here for 10 years now.
Okay.
And seen the city develop loads,
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. So.
Okay, brilliant. Well, hopefully have you back on again at the end of the year when we can hear about the new projects.
Excellent.
It's been a pleasure, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
No worries. Thanks, Richard. Cheers.